Hello, it's Nikki and welcome back to, I'll stop swinging on this chair, behind the scenes part 2 and the process of why I have been relaunching 2 of my signature programs. And today I'm going to talk about Speak Up. So Speak Up began many years ago, but it really consolidated for me back in 2019. I had my daughter in August 2019, and in the September, I was invited to do a speaking gig with Stylist Magazine and NatWest Bank. And I was part of a panel and sharing lots of advice and being part of a conversation about running your own gig, essentially, personal branding, portfolio career, negotiations, etc. I had a very little baby at the time. She was only about 10 weeks. So I brought the troops with me. My mum was brilliant in the green room and stylists were great and everything worked out. And I remember going back to that feeling of debating in my mind whether I deserved a place at the table. And ultimately, I knew that I would show up. I knew that I would do the work. I knew I would prep well. I knew that I would research. I knew I would do all of the right things. But there was something in me in those early stages of being a mum, and I already had a son who was nearly 4. But what actually happened in that moment was, on that day, I begun to speak in a very different way. And even though I was sharing the panel with 3 other people and a host, and there wasn't actually that much room and that space to talk about things, or you weren't there to talk about your business necessarily. You were there to help people. There was something about I'm just going to call it energy, my approach, that because my baby was so little, I was really in that cracked open stage. And what happened in that moment was that people got very honest. People, I guess because I'd said, hello, I can't really get my trousers on and I feel a bit vulnerable about this, and I've just had a baby and she's downstairs and hopefully she won't cry. People met me where they were at. And with conversations like money and speaking and putting yourself out there, these topics are vulnerable. They are personal. Because actually, when they're good, they require you or invite you to be raw and vulnerable and in conversation and hold that space for people. And I believe that we are very much moving away from a time where people on the internet or in person say things like, I know all the answers, you know nothing, and you've got to buy all of the answers from me. I think there is much more of a human interaction, connection. People in the room want to be seen. They want to be held and understood. And therefore, as speakers, we need to create work that is going to support the way that people are coming to us and what they need. And so that day in October 2019, it changed everything. It was a real fork in the road in terms of career. Suddenly I opened up so many more speaking opportunities. It's like one of those moments that once you unlock a new level of something, suddenly everybody wants, oh, can you do that for us? And it felt like I'd opened up a new level of Candy Crush in the business game. And from 2019 into 2020, my speaking part of my income pie really sustained the family, and that's not just been booked for talks, online workshops, speaking in people's membership. But it was from the podcast as well. People were listening to the podcast. People were inquiring to work with me. And it dawned on me the importance of doing this work around your brand. And why speak up is maybe different from a lot of the other stuff that is out there. When I've been designing it, I've always had two elements in mind. I've had the sense of, right, how do I want to design this? So I want to give you the tools to put things together. So essentially at the end of the course, you're good to go. Like, you have a toolbox of things. You've got your speakers page, you've got this, you've got your creative reel, you've got all of the stuff ready to go. And the second part is, for me, can you deliver them? Can you put yourself out there? Can you pitch? Can you talk about money? Can you receive money? Can you negotiate? Can you put yourself forward for things? And what I'm finding is, out there are so many courses that give you that step by step in terms of the design, but you're left to your own devices in terms of how you actually implement it. So it's very learning based, and then you kind of go, ooh, yes, but I'm still not having that connection with it. And I've understood as a speaker how important it is that you have to make things your own. So I can give you loads of information, loads of things to look at and consider, but I also trust the fact that you have the sense and the discernment to say, that's not going to work for me, so I'm just going to park it. I'm not going to do that. And the thing with something like speaking is, once you've got the elements in place, seriously, the sky is the limit as to where your speaking can take you. And I found this post 2020, since things have opened up a little bit, I've absolutely knocked my own socks off in terms of some of the rooms that I've been in terms of some of the clients that I've worked with. I honestly can't believe it. But equally, it's the same stuff. It's more of the same. It's just the elevated version. And when I look back to 2019, when I initially really saw, it was more, not 2019, more sort of 2016, 2017 was when I started to properly charge for speaking. And I say properly with a smile, with a smile, because you know what that means. You know what that means. It's like actually getting paid for your time, not like doing a little deal, not like over delivering and undercharging, properly getting paid for, I was going to say my gifts. That sounds very arrogant, but the offering that I am selling. And I have revised those things over time. I think it's really important to do that as a creative, as a portfolio career person, as a personal brand. I've always endeavored to keep fresh, like I am doing with these courses. But essentially at this stage, now that I have designed it all, it's now about refinement. It's now about adding things in. Almost like when you have a new kitchen. There's definitely, or I remember my mum did a big renovation years ago, and we stood in her living room and you could see the sky. And then you looked at each other like, wow, this is a big job, isn't it? Isn't it? And yeah, it was enormous. And sometimes in those early stages, you think, how is this ever going to look as I want it to? Or am I actually ever going to be able to do this? But there becomes a turning point when you get that support, when you get things in place, that after a while, you've got the structure of it. And then what you're adding in is going back to the kitchen analogy, you're adding in a pitcher, you're adding in a brand new kettle, you've got yourself some new bowls, whatever it might be. It's about the sparkles, it's about the touches. Or sometimes you might go, do you know what, that cupboard, I had it with our own kitchen the other day, that cupboard is not working for me. I don't like it. And it's also one of those that you have to have like big upper body strength to be able to open. I mean, you don't, but I just don't have a lot of upper body strength. But I had to rework the whole cupboard because it just physically wasn't working for our home, for our kitchen. My aim is in this program that you will have what you need to start selling your services, because speaking and speaking up and communicating is a real job. And for a long time, a lot of people have slid into my DMs and many others, and the currency has been about exposure. Or can you just do this little thing? Like, can you just say a few words? But actually, it's never a few words. It's, can you prepare a deck? And it'll be really helpful if you could bring your own equipment. And can you get there 4 hours early? And we need to do a rehearsal. And you know those things. And I think as busy business owners, there are certain stages when we need to drill down, put some solid structures in place once again, and have those boundary chats with ourselves where we say, this is a paid service. We're not doing exposure here. I mean, there may be 1 in 20 that you might want to do for exposure because, I don't know, it's connected to a charity or like there's some other reason of your choice. But generally, this is about being paid for what you're delivering. And I often think about these moments and I actually said it to a big corporate once. They were like, we don't really pay our speakers. I said, why? And she said, well, we've just never really done that. And I said, do you get paid? She was like, oh yeah. I was like, well, it's kind of the same thing. You are showing up and giving your time and expertise. And it's kind of the same for the speaker. We're leaving our houses, putting on a bra, turning up on time and doing a great job. She was like, oh yeah, okay, I'll ask. So she did. She asked, she went away and then said, I found some budget for you. And it turns out I was the first or one of the first to actually get paid for speaking at that organization. And you will know this organization big time. It's huge. I'm not going to tell you because, I'm a classy lady. But in summary, speaking is important and people need to hear your voice, your flavor, your tone, your experience, your story. So many people from so many different walks of life over the years have gone through this course. And it's really about taking these foundational pieces and making them your own. And I am there as a guide, as a support system to walk with you every step of the way. So you get to that place where you're like, yeah, I'm good to go. I'm going to press play. I'm going to go live. This is me now. If you want to find out more about Speak Up, there are 3 ways that you can work with me and work with the course. There are payment plans also. Come on over and find out more and let's do this. And I know that there is sometimes legal moments of like promising guarantees, but the way that I've structured this has been very practical. There is homework to do at the end of every module. And my intention for you is that at the end of every module, you will have what you need to then put yourself out there, to pitch, to offer your services. And my intention is that you reap that money back very, very quickly. And I mean, again and again and again, because spoiler alert, once you put one of these talks together, everybody's going to want it. So yeah, the world's your oyster, really. Any questions, let me know. Use my messenger button on my website, or you can just go to nikkiroby.com/speak up, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.